video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games, hosted by three very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tommy Daslow, and with me, as always,
dialing in from my new PS5 Pro, it's Ben Vanel here. Okay. That's right, I'm on Discord on the PS5 Pro. It can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Typical games journalist lies. I've been able to pick them up. My name's Adam Knox. Hello.
Yeah. Guys, a new console has launched.
Sort of.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter and threads of side-by-side comparisons. And
yeah.
I don't know, maybe this is an old man take, but I'm looking at him being like, these just kind of look a bit like the same photo to me. And in fact, in some cases, looking at the before one and being like, wow, that does look great. And then being like, I actually think the new thing kind of looks a little worse.
Yeah.
Anyway.
To be fair, Twitter and threads compress their images and all of that. Like,
you're
not
true.
getting the full gamer experience. But yeah, it is very much something that has come out and I don't think it's a big flop or anything. Like, they're selling them, but and we shouldn't expect it to be the norm forever. It was an aberration that consoles weren't available for so long. That was against the norm. The PS4 Pro didn't sell out everywhere, but it did mean that a bunch of people, I saw this, bought a ton of them to try and be scalpers about it and not be able to sell those for inflated prices. So PS5 Pro is the best console release of all time. As far
I saw that they were selling them at a loss in some cases, which, again, fuck scalpers. That's fantastic
That's great.
news. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yep.
That's oh man. Anyway,
if that is the enhanced
Pros,
properties,
if anyone,
if that's the pro aspect that it fucks over the scalping market, hey,
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
that's a pro move. I don't have a PS5 right now, and I've been thinking about all those Black Friday sales and stuff are coming up.
Yep.
If a regular PS5 goes on sale, I might have a look at maybe nabbing one at some point. But
what is the next thing coming out that because you really got lucky, like the big PS5 game of the last little while, as we talked about a few months ago, you happened to be living in a sublet where they had a PS5 where you could play that. But what's the next thing that would mean that you would be really tempted to get one before?
Out of maybe Death Stranding 2.
Oh yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 6 is unlikely to come out on the PC at launch.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
So within the next year, there'll be
games
something.
that don't have a formal release date yet. And the next time you're going to be tempted by this console. That ain't good.
It's the classic thing as well of when it's not there, you're like, oh man, I wish I could go back and finish off the side stuff in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth I didn't do. But if it was sitting right there, I doubt I'd go do that. So but that's the way my brain works. And the PS5 Pro, it should be up my alley, but I guess this is literally just it is my alley, but it's the fancy part of the alley that I can't afford to live in.
The red rope is there, and we're not getting past that.
No, and why they put that in an alley. I know some nightclubs are in alleys, so you get red ropes in alleys all the time, actually. So you know what? Forget about me. A red rope also useful for a giant detective making a corkboard.
Red rope in an alley sounds like some saying that doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore.
Right.
He's like a red rope in an alley, if you know what I mean.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. Or happy for you.
He's a few red ropes short of an alley, if you know what I'm saying.
And I haven't even really felt the urge to dig into those PS5 Pro comparison videos and the reviews and stuff.
Neither.
I've seen the digital foundries and whatever being like, here's what it can do. And I don't know. There's just something about this one where and look, it's fine if things aren't for me. There are people who it'll be for, and you know who you are. And it's, kind of an extravagance, but good for you if that's how you want to extravagate. Which I am certain is the word. So,
but I do think that the fact that, and who knows if it's because there aren't any supply chain issues anymore, but the fact that they're not completely sold out, again, it doesn't mean it's a failure, and that not everything has to be judged so harshly. It just means it is different to the previous one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really we are kind of at the point where these technical improvements, I just don't really care, like, moment to moment how much more realistic a blade of grass looks. It used to be, now you can do an open world, and you can do a bigger open world, and you can do a more realistic open world, and you can see more of the open world at one time, and it just feels like we've really gotten to that point where I want their games to feel different. I don't want them to feel different, but you know what I mean? Like, you want
innovation in the game.
I want there to be some benefit to the actual gameplay in this.
Now, Ben, you see that mouth that just said all those words? Watch it start to froth when the Switch 2 comes out.
Yeah.
But we don't know for sure that won't be different in some way, but it seems as though that'll be a Switch. But it's cool, I guess, that it exists. Good. But they've made so much weird hardware stuff that the PSVR 2, the PlayStation Portal, and the PS5 Pro. I mean, weirdly, out of those, the only one that is sort of a platform and has at least one fucking dedicated game for it is probably the silliest one out of all of them to get.
Yeah.
But, like, people like the Portal if it fits into their
apparently it's
household.
Really good. Yeah.
And I'm sure the Pro will be the same, but yeah, if it's for you, and it looks like it ain't for any of us, and it really speaks to the drop in skill that the workforce has suffered, that there are so few pros out there now.
It's so true. It's so true.
That's my stupid take.
Any follow-ups on that, or because I believe I read an article that 20% of European games industry employees were laid off in the past 12 months.
Holy fucking shit. A fifth.
Well,
that's a fair chunk. That's a
look to your left.
If you lost a fifth of this, exactly.
Look to your left, look to your right, look in front of you, look behind you. One of the five of you, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, pour one out for our departed games developers.
Yeah.
The generation that were our parents used to love that smug saying of may you live in interesting times. Wish they hadn't have said that so fucking often.
Yeah. It really feels like they called something into being.
There was a bit of manifestation happening there. They said Beetlejuice a few too many times, and it's fucking interesting right now.
Yeah.
For example, stuff that comes out of Nintendo, despite their best efforts, is interesting. They've pulled off the hat trick of 3 bizarre announcements that have nothing to do with the Switch 2. This third one being to round out the trilogy. I assume it's a trilogy. Maybe it'll go on to a fourth.
God, was this 3 weeks in a row? Is this every week? Has it been every week? Has there been one a week?
I think every other week, maybe something like that, but pretty regularly.
Yeah. We had the alarm clock, we had the music app, and now we have a dedicated look at the Donkey Kong Country theme park part of Super Nintendo Land, which, to be fair, this was something that I think they were talking like in the middle of the year that it was like almost ready. So this kind of was on the horizon. Like they were due to announce this in some capacity. This wasn't like the random announcement of the alarm clock and the music app. There was some precedent for this, and they had to do that thing where they did it as a Nintendo Direct, and they had to be very clear about like, don't think that you're going to randomly get an announcement of a new console at the end of this presentation about a theme park.
If you come into this thinking you're going to see any new Nintendo hardware that isn't an animatronic Cranky Kong, you're going to be so disappointed. But let me tell you, that animatronic Cranky Kong looks pretty fucking cool.
It looks awesome. Yeah, so the video is it's Miyamoto himself just kind of walking around the Donkey Kong Country theme park, which man, I would love there to be a whole YouTube channel that is just Miyamoto in abandoned theme parks, just vibing out by himself. It kind of rules.
I want the game that he makes based on his memories of wandering around a theme park as an adult. You know, Zelda style when he used to wander the forest.
Yeah.
The theme park version of Zelda.
You know what's strange about it is that, you know, obviously he created Donkey Kong, but then all of the like...
He did?
But all of the Donkey Kong imagery, and especially like what they're leaning on in this park, is all like Rareware's redesign of him. And then the like Golden Temple thing is like the Retro Studios version of Donkey Kong. So it is kind of this strange thing where like he's walking through this world that is like his creation, but this like spin on it from a complete other...
This evolution.
Different countries, different sensibilities.
Sort of from the movie too, because Donkey Kong was in the Mario movie. So, because like there's a big plush Donkey Kong suit that someone's gonna fucking cook in every single day. That he like pounds the fist of and everything. That it all looks up to a similar level of like high quality stuff that theme park has.
I loved in the costume how Donkey Kong in the games and in the model, he's very like hunched over and he's kind of leaning on his fists. And the person in the costumes, they're doing that a little bit, but obviously, there clearly has been a directive of like, hey, you know what, when you can, just maybe do a little bit of a lean, but obviously don't worry about like walking around on all fours in this thing.
We can just act like this is like a particularly prideful Donkey Kong who lives here, who's always got his chest out, and he's fine, and he's getting no workers' comp from us for a sawback because we want to avoid that.
But he's going around. He's showing you some of the food that you can get at the snack bar. Little look at the merch stand. There's like a bongos game that Miyamoto played with 2 park crew members, which that's a hell of a phone call to get, isn't it? Like, hey, do you mind coming in on your day off to make a video with the guy who invented Donkey Kong?
Guess what? Put the mouse head on because Walt's coming. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Uh-oh.
We were there, when was it? February? March. Feb and March, we were in Japan, and we saw the under construction area. When you're up high, you could see the palm trees and stuff behind the wall, and that was a while ago. It seemed to be all pretty well set up,
almost ready to go. And a bit of a shame in this video to.
Well, it takes about 8 months if you're like trying to hire an acrobat who can walk like a gorilla all day. I don't think they were able to pull it off.
Find just the right kind of hunchback to come in and get him in that suit. Not really any of a look at the roller coaster, the big ride that's in there, which is obviously sort of the star attraction of it. Would have been cool to see a little bit more like, I don't know, concept art, a bit of a look at that. Kind of curious to see what it looks like when you're like inside the temple. It's like a simulated minecart ride thing.
Cool.
But that's the big exciting bit of it that seems really cool.
Yeah, because that like opening day you get all those GoPros on the heads and whatever of people going through those rides too. So we'll see it.
That's true. The Mario Kart experience was very fun, and like that was, I guess, the most ride-ish ride of the existing stuff. There's also like a very sedate tour around on a little,
the Yoshi Scenic Railway thing.
Yeah, which is great because the design of the actual place is incredible. Like the sort of recreation of the the world, the video game world. But this would be worth going back for, I think. If this is like a full on, like indoor enhanced, because there was a lot of AR shit involved in the Mario Kart ride as well. Like this, look, I think I'm going back. Okay.
This is really this is the sort of dialogue I've had to break out of my head about the PS5 Pro. It's like, I can actually see a few more pixels, and I love pixels.
Look, if I don't get the PS5 Pro, I can afford the flights.
Right, it's one or the other. The two genders.
And if you've not been there, like you said, you get the Mario Kart experience and Yoshi's Railway, which are two of also the worst prog rock bands of all time, from the sound of those names. And speaking of prog, there's not been a lot of progress made on something that I don't know if anyone particularly cares about, but I know at least 2 of the 3 of us, maybe all 3, certainly did. I don't know if you saw the Playdate stereo doc. That genuinely was a contributing factor to me going like, I'd love to get a little Playdate.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have said a sentence like that creepier. But it's not happening, basically.
It's off the plans. It's off the schedule.
Because it was going to be a little speaker as well, where they were, when they announced it, they'd sort of, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was some form of like curated playlist for it that they were doing.
Yeah, there was an app that they were going to have on the Playdate itself, called Wave something. I can't remember, but like
Poolside or something like that.
Pool Suite maybe as well. But yeah, it was like a cool little thing, and they put out like an unusually open explanation of what was going on with it. So like they'd hired a company to do the Bluetooth stuff, who then outsourced that Bluetooth stuff to another company who fucked it. Right. And the speakers never sounded good, and they tried to get it all done internally themselves after that all kind of happened and took ages, and they had bad communication, and there was all this sort of stuff that went wrong. And then, they couldn't kind of get it going themselves, which, all right. But like, it's weird as well because like Panic and Teenage Engineering were working together to make the Playdate, and Teenage Engineering make A, the most expensive, but B, I'm led to believe high quality in audio equipment, music stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that they kind of couldn't figure that out. But like commentary I've seen around this, people who work with Bluetooth all say they fucking hate Bluetooth and it's a nightmare. So
right.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, I'd still love to get that little shell and put the pen in and chuck it, even if it's just a little charger without a speaker. I don't really care about the speaker.
You know what's funny? I saw this morning same as you, Adam. Like speaker, fine, but yeah, as a little desk thing, and just also a nicer way to display the Playdate as well. Like clipping it on and having it there as a pen holder. I saw today on Facebook a promotion for the remaster of Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Switch that's coming out at the start of next year. At GameStop in America, there's like a pre-order bonus where you can get like a Donkey Kong barrel pen holder. And I was just like, the timing of this is so funny. If they were just like, quick, now that they've canned the Playdate dock, we got to get all those pen holder enthusiasts.
I mean, they're out there. I think I'm among their ranks. I'm it's a damn shame that this didn't pan out. And they said like, they've just reached the point where even if they sort of started again or like fixed up this and that, it would blow out further than what they could possibly make back from it. So they just kind of have to stop. And said like, hey, look, it's not the end necessarily one day, meaning that like if they sell a vast number more play dates, maybe they could like make it make sense. But I don't think it's likely that thing's ever going to materialize other than maybe you can buy a yellow 3D printed brick off of Etsy or something.
Yeah, I was going to say,
the
door is wide open now for there to be like a Kickstarter campaign that's just like, remember the failed promise of the Playdate dock? Well, we got together, the spiritual successor to the non-existent Playdate dock.
I would support it in general, but if it had that tone, I'd feel weird about
it. Yeah. Look, funded within an hour, but guys, can you really? I mean, can you sort of tone it down a little bit?
Yeah,
it's a pen holder. You can get them. You can use a barrel.
Yeah.
And I guess while we're talking about nice looking shit that you don't need at all. They're also making a new special edition little OLED Steam Deck that's coming, a little white one.
So globally available on release, not staggered or anything, which is cool. I wish I had a need for it. Like I'm gonna like downsize my PC a little bit, get a smaller monitor, but I just don't play games on the bus. I just can't justify it.
If you were going to Japan,
that's
11 hours.
You could hypothetically bring it with you on a lot of overseas trips and then never end up taking it out of the bag.
Yeah, that is exactly what would happen.
Because you're just enjoying the overseas trip, but you then get the thrill of all of the bag space that it takes up and being really annoyed by it every time you're having to pack to move to another destination.
That is a charger.
The cable from the charger gets wrapped around all your shit too. That's a bit of fun. Yeah,
I'll just take the Playdate
Steam Deck either. Yeah. They're cool, and I'm glad they're for sale in Australia now. So if you've been holding off, I don't know if the price is the same and it's limited run or anything like that. I don't know what their setup is, but I assume it's something like that. But hey, you've got lots of options for little gadgets and tech to chuck your money at if you want. Speaking of chucking money at people, a couple of people in California have chucked some money at some lawyers, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So remember The Crew? And I know the answer's no.
Yes. Oh, I mean, I do.
The Crew,
No.
You remember The Crew, the game, or do you remember about The Crew shutting down?
I remember The Crew, the game.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you know what? I didn't trust your memory well enough, and that's on me. I didn't remember all the times you'd had good memory, and it like always, one finger pointing at you, 3 fingers pointing back at me.
Yep, exactly.
If you're doing that specific. But like there's a couple of people in California who, so Ubisoft shut down The Crew and you can't play it anymore, and they like offered refunds for people who bought it recently, but everyone else, it was just like, yeah, fuck you, see you later. And they've already said that with The Crew 2, when that winds down, they'll patch it so you can play it single player, but you just can't with The Crew anymore.
And so The Crew is a open world racing game.
That's right.
Open world, online, persistent world racing game.
That was the thing. You needed to be online, and look, I don't think I ever got around to playing The Crew, which will haunt me until my deathbed, where
it means you can't play The Crew 2 by the law of Adam Knox's franchise.
Oh yeah, good point.
Appreciation.
I'm out of every Crew game.
Yeah.
Forever. It's going to be one of my regrets, and when I'm telling either grandkids or more likely just nurses who have to be there about my regrets on my deathbed, they'll be like, what? I guess you had a great life then. Fucking shut up.
Or
no,
the
you don't
worst
get it. My
life.
priorities were always wrong.
Yeah.
But so the servers are down. You can't play The Crew, and a couple of people in California have. So it's a proposal for a class action lawsuit. They're suing them, I think, but they're also like putting it to a court. Like, can we turn this into a class action? Because there's a ton of people who had The Crew. As we've all proven many times on this show, none of us are lawyers. And I'm sure that some law people could probably... law people. Yeah. I just said the word lawyer. That's how little of a lawyer I am. But I'm sure that they could probably fill in more of these blanks. But essentially, I think it's less about The Crew and more that if this were to... The interesting part of it is that if this were to get up and get like some... Hey, yeah, you're right. Your consumer rights were fucked over here. Yeah,
could set a good legal precedent for, owning stuff that you buy.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the requirement to sort of update things at end of life to be accessible afterwards, which Ubisoft is already clearly worried about if they've said they'll do it for The Crew 2. Like, there must have been enough of a backlash. And some people are working on like a mod to get The Crew up and running again, or should I say up and driving again. Might not be a lawyer, but I'm a fantastic comedian.
I don't think you should say that.
That's like, it's almost like the crew has a pit crew.
Thank you for the applause. What does a pit crew mean? Ubisoft has declined to comment, but I'd say they'd hope this doesn't pan out. And look, a lot of these sorts of things, from my worse memory than Tommy's, they tend to not move that far. I mean, consumer rights laws tend to be, in places that have them, like Australia is one of them, they take them really seriously when they're sort of good. And it doesn't matter how like technically petty something may seem or whatever from the outside. Right. If this technically is them saying, like, it'll just be about whether, you know, the fucking terms, I guess, you agreed to at the start did indicate, like, yeah, you never bought this, you never owned this, you were allowed to play it for however long we deemed it up for. So we'll see.
I guess that also, if there's a conflict with, like, any of the marketing, right? Like, because that can also be a contributing factor if it was implied that you owned this game through advertising.
Right. And because the thing is, from my, like... everything should be forever and I'm never going to die. Freeze me like a Twilight episode where I get to play every video game, but my glasses break. I'm like, that's fine. I'll squint.
Yeah, Twilight episode.
Twilight Zone. I'm
like an episode of the fan fiction I write about Twilight.
Freeze me like the horny vampire that I am.
I'm very friendly with the Twilight Zone and we're on a first name only basis. But they, like... it's good from the perspective of like, cool, I get to have this game forever. But also, I could see this being a fucking nightmare for smaller developers, especially who like don't have the means. Like if Ubisoft doesn't have the means, or Nintendo doesn't have the means, and like, yes, they probably could hypothetically still have the Wii servers on and whatever. But at some point, these are all businesses, and I do understand that just by nature of things being online does make them temporary.
Yeah, I feel like there is more of an indication from indie devs and like solo devs, people like that, of being like, you can download the files. You know, this is, you can preserve this yourself. You have access to a zip, you know, or it's something that you purchase. Not that you just purchase access to. It feels like, because that sentiment is like something, the sentiment that we have about owning games is reflected by people who are making them as a passion project, not just as a corporate employee.
And smaller developers tend to have those sorts of things as a priority because if you're smaller, goodwill matters, you know. So
yes,
it makes more sense for them to put more effort into those things and to plan ahead for that sort of stuff. And that's the other thing, is it's just like a lack of planning ahead, that because people would be fine with it if it was just patched and sort of broken, and you can't do the online stuff anymore, but it's still kind of exists. Like it wouldn't be the same issue if it was hamstrung rather than gone.
Yeah. Because like you say, it's like, of course a company has to switch off servers at some point if it's an old eShop, or like it's happened with other games that are extremely old and there's been warning and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, this kind of, I think you're also right that like it being in America rather than like some European companies have countries have a lot more of a, you know, individual supporting legal system. Feels like America's the last place this would actually get up.
California, I think, is sort of different. That's what people keep on yelling. But
keep California different.
It's often the place, the EU, where stuff like, I mean, the reason there's so many fucking cookies bullshit all over the screen forever now is because of them. And like, thank you, but also, guys, you made a fucking huge mess here. We at least have kept it. So, like, can I just automatically reject all cookies every time? Why can't I do that? Why do you have to pop it up, brother?
Just say I'm on a diet. I'm on a low sugar diet. Give me that option. I don't want any cookies.
Can I opt in on my browser and say I actually don't care? So I'm actually fine with you not telling me.
And give me a virus or two. You know.
Yeah, I don't care.
You know what? I want to see that Donkey Kong barrel pen holder. That's who I am and what I want popping up in my feeds. That's what you sound like. Speaking of sounds as well.
Ooh, okay.
From sounding like... You remember Persona 5?
Great game.
Yep.
Personally,
one of the best.
I loved it.
So
Don't know about you guys, but I really loved it.
Do you remember the battle theme?
I do.
Oh, I listen to it regularly. I don't even need to remember it. I just throw it on.
Well, would you be happy if it got a Grammy?
I would. And look, I know this is very big of me to say, but this is just a very selfless act. I would gladly accept the Grammy on Persona 5's behalf. If they wanted me to head out there.
Sure. If they offered you an all expenses paid trip to the Grammys to accept the award on their behalf, you would be man enough to accept that responsibility.
If they wanted me up there at the podium dressed up like a big bus to accept the award, I'd gladly do it.
Wow.
It's not the easier to pull off cat version, which is basically just put on a big head. The bus version.
No.
Wow.
On all fours, like the person in the Donkey Kong costume, wheeling myself out.
I knew you were like a nice guy, Tommy, but I didn't know you had that sort of like magnanimous attitude within you to do something so charitable.
I don't. I just love the game that much. I wouldn't do it for anyone else.
Okay, that's kind of tempering that vibe, but still good, I guess.
If you don't remember it, it's called Last Surprise. If you want to Google it, and it goes like, it's the one that goes da da da. Oh wait, got it so wrong, completely wrong.
That's it.
I like how in the same sentence it went from you can look it up if you want, but I also will just do it right now.
Yeah, that's like looking it up.
That's the one with like the guitar at the start, right? Like the
no, that's the like boss version. This is the regular.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, then I don't think it deserves a Grammy.
I also prefer that boss one, especially like the way you would go into the dungeon, the palace, and like it would be playing, and then on the final day, you would get that like lyric included version. Fucking so cool.
Yeah.
The reason it's up for a Grammy, by the way, is because there's this jazz orchestra called the 8-Bit Big Band, who I've seen on YouTube before. They do a bunch of like video game covers and other stuff, and they're pretty good. And that's why a song that is from a game from 2017 is up for a Grammy. It's like that cover in the. I'm trying to find what best arrangement, instruments and vocals.
Oh, nice. So it's not actually for, or is it for the cover? Because
it is for the cover. It's for 8-Bit Big Band. They're the ones who were nominated for their arrangement of it.
It's their arrangement.
They're like jazz version of it. Yeah.
I
mean,
John Legend and Willow are two of the people who they're up against.
Okay. Willow
I'd
from
love
the
to
movie?
see...
Yeah, the movie Willow.
What's his name?
No, the tree.
Tree Man, Val Kilmer.
Willow is in Willow Smith.
Willow Smith. Yeah. Okay.
So that's cool. Good for them. I hope they win it because I know that song and I don't know the John Legend or the Willow ones.
I'd love to see a Grammy performance of the song. Get the whole crew.
Now we're talking.
Get the Phantom Thieves up there, rocking out.
And then you come up in the middle of them, part the crowd, dressed as a bus.
Yeah.
And cannot accept the award because your hands are part of the costume.
Yes.
Yep. Chuck it in the boot.
You can open the door.
That's true.
Get on the bus.
I'm trying to think if any other, because I remember it was a big thing when Civilization 4, when Baba Yetu from that won a Grammy. I think that was like the first video game piece of music to have ever won a Grammy.
Right.
And then I'm trying to remember if they've introduced Grammy
I think they did.
Categories.
Didn't this happen for like the last Grammys? I feel like we talked about that. They chucked in a video game like composition.
Sounds like it might be right. And look, I'm on a computer right now and I could look it up. But you know what? Sometimes the mystery is more fun than the solution.
Yeah.
That's right. You know what I mean? Leave them wanting more. That's the showbiz rule.
I'm always leaving Miss Marple plays halfway through. I don't. There's nothing to do with me. There's none of my business. You guys
I'd
are
Google
involved
it, but my hands are tires, so I can't hit the keyboard, unfortunately. I could drive somewhere that might have the information. And just, if it's on a billboard somewhere. If someone I don't know, dropped a bit of rubbish out of their car that's got it written on it, I could drive over
you need
there.
like a flyer to hit your windscreen.
Even a billboard, I might not be able to see up at that angle because my eyes are the headlights, so I've got pretty limited field of vision.
You should probably be keeping them on the road too.
That's true.
I'd be a little freaked out if my bus was looking up at billboards. All right, bus, just come on. You're also a cat, so I'm fucking already really freaked out.
Yeah.
Well, hey, speaking of Persona as well, I bloody finished Metaphor.
Yes.
You've done it.
King.
How many hours? Do you remember?
It's probably somewhere, like the Steam number is too high because I would have left it on pause a few times. I think it was somewhere around, it's still high though, it's like 88 or something like that, like a lot of hours.
Yep.
We're talking that sort of Atlas number of hours. Another game with a great, bizarre battle theme.
Yes.
Some great music the whole way through. And like, it's not up there with Persona 5 for me. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought the characters were really well done, and it like pretty much maintained its momentum the whole way through, which is tough to do for that amount of time.
Yep.
I had a good time with it. You kind of like, or at least I was like a bit over leveled at the end, so the ending was like kind of easy. But I don't regret spending such an enormous chunk of my life as of yet on that game. But one day I may have a different perspective on it.
That's sort of better than the alternative where it can so easily happen in a JRPG. You get to the end and you literally have no way of beating the game other than to go back and do busy work and do little incidental fights and level yourself up. That's so much worse than, at least when you like kind of roll through the ending, you're like, this is good because it shows me that I've been playing the whole rest of the game correctly. I haven't cut any corners. I've done exactly what was, asked of me. It's a good feeling. Here's my little reward for being the best at this game.
It's a satisfying ending. It's all like everything. Like they could do a sequel, I think, probably one day if they wanted, but if they don't, this was also just like a cool side thing to do for a bit.
Yep.
I liked it, and we'll talk about it more with some spoilers as well at the Game of the Year stuff, I reckon.
Cool.
So if either of you guys want to finish it, lock in if you don't want to be spoiled.
I don't think I mean not before the end of the year. I'm enjoying it fine. I do think I'm starting to feel that perhaps Persona 5 and the Persona 5 world is what I loved more than specifically the Atlas JRPG-ness of it. Like, I didn't really connect too strongly with Shin Megami Tensei 5, was that came out?
Yeah.
I also didn't connect super strongly with Persona 3 or 4, which I did like dabble with. But I loved Strikers, and I loved, I'll play Persona 5 Royal. I'll play that through to the end at some point. I'm probably more motivated to do that than finish Metaphor, which, is not a huge knock on Metaphor. I think it's just that the real passion for me was the characters and that specific world.
I mean, I think they really get that too. I mean, it is a lot of the same stuff, just with a different coat of paint. So I think they really do just try and go like,
for sure,
hey, one of these 4 might be the thing that you gravitate more towards, these characters in this setting, but under the hood, it is more or less the same stuff. Like, I saw so many people be like, oh, this is hitting so much better for me than Persona 5 did.
Right.
I'm so much more into this setting than the modern day school kid setting, and I kind of feel the opposite. I kind of feel like that's just a bit more of a unique thing for a JRPG. It's kind of why I love the last 2 Yakuza games. It's just like modern day running around a city. Like, it's not the sort of stuff you typically see in these kinds of games, whereas like medieval fantasy very much is. And in fact, to contradict myself, I'm really looking forward to, at the end of this week, playing the Dragon Quest 3
You hypocrite!
HD remake that's coming out.
How dare you, Tommy? No, that's totally fair. But again, Dragon Quest has a very specific art style that separates it from a lot of stuff. I have been playing, actually, I've been playing one new game this week, but I've gone back to Infinite Wealth. That is the JRPG that I feel like I want to finish by the time we do Game of the Year stuff. I'm loving that. It is... Maybe I'm just getting less patient. This absolutely could be the case. But I don't love how long these fucking games are. I wish, because like, what was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like 35 hours? Like it was more.
It was like 60 or something by the time I was done with it. Yeah,
60's probably my max. That's probably as much as I'm looking at, and it's a shame because the Like a Dragon games are packed with stuff to do. There is almost infinite, amount of mini games and side stuff and stuff that you can entertain yourself with, and it's all really good. I've enjoyed it in all of the games I've played, but it almost feels like a chore to be like, okay, I'm in like chapter 8 out of 40, and I'm enjoying it, but I just there's just too many games to play that aren't the same thing for 60 hours.
Well, that's the thing, is like, if it's a once in a blue moon thing, like I was ready for it with Metaphor as part of why I went through it. Like, I didn't get into Infinite Wealth in that way. I did play a bunch of Rebirth, but also really liked that. Like, I don't know. I was just I was ready to jump.
Well, yeah. So this very phenomenon is something that has affected my enjoyment of the game that I was playing this week. Mario and Luigi Brothership is a JRPG. It's a revival of the Mario and Luigi RPG brand. There are, for some reason, 3 separate strains of Mario RPG that all kind of have slight differences, but are more so in their tone and their writing, but are more or less sort of the same kind of thing. A little bit.
They're similar for sure, yeah.
So yeah, they haven't made one of these in a while, and the original developer went bankrupt. So this is like a different team kind of picking it up and running with it. And it is like, there's a lot that I really, really like about it. I love how it looks. I love the style of it. The combat is great. Like it's got a lot of that like sort of timed button press stuff. You're a lot more active in the combat than you are in a lot of other RPGs.
I feel like that's sort of the main piece of connective tissue between these different strains of the Mario RPG things as well.
Right.
Yep. The like having to do a little button input for the attack
thing.
Or and it is just, it's a JRPG, so it takes a while to get going, and that's kind of what you sign up for with the genre. But in a year where there have been a lot of them and a lot of big ones and a lot of really good ones, something like this comes along that is like decent, and but it just really suffers by like exactly what you're saying, just having played a lot of things in a row of Infinite Wealth, Rebirth, Metaphor, where it's just, you do, if this was like the one JRPG I was playing for the year, I'd probably be like a lot more, I guess, forgiving of that. I mean, I think I'm like 5 hours in, and it is just, it's fine, but it really is staggering how it unfolds the combat options that you have. So from what I hear, there is a little system in it where you get these kind of like badge things that completely change combat for you, and you can combine them and kind of discover all these like different effects, which sounds really cool and sounds like it's got a bit of depth to it. But I'm 5 hours in and I haven't been given that yet. And what that means is that you are getting into these combat encounters where you have two different types of attacks that basically do the same thing, where you are just taking your turn, doing your attacks, wiping out your 4 enemies, and there's just, it's really starting to get to that point of like, really need something else here, really need something else to be chewing into, like Atlas games take a long time to get going, but they do, a lot of that is like interesting story stuff, so it doesn't matter, and they do still do a good job of threading through these like new interesting little bits that they're giving you. This is like, there's not really a story to speak of. The world and the characters and stuff are like charming and fine, and I really like the style and feel of it, but it just is exactly what you're talking about, where it's like, this is apparently, I think it's like 35 hours long, and even that just kind of feels like it's a bit, hey, it'd be cool to have a JRPG that was just a 15-hourer where you get some of this fat out there and get me these new mechanics a bit sooner.
Surely, that was like Super Mario RPG as well, which was also within roughly the last year.
Yeah.
And like by nature of it being a SNES game is part of why this was, but that was very snappy, moved along really quickly, and like from the way you're describing it, it sounds like, you're saying, oh, but I played this and that and it's made me a bit drained or whatever, but it also sounds like this might just be a bit boring.
Yeah, I mean, it is for sure, and I think what it would be like a great first RPG for a younger player, which I think is kind of true of all the Mario RPGs, but this even more so. I guess I just would probably be up for like all of the style of it and the feel of it, like the animation of it is like fantastic. All of the little, the way the attacks look and the idle animations that Mario and Luigi have in battle. I really love that style of it. So maybe that would be able to get me through a little more, but I think it's fine. I love the music in it, but it's...
I was just going to ask, is the writing like, does that have enough personality to drive some of it? Because like, I remember you didn't like it, Ben, with Thousand Year Door that also came out within the last year again. And Super Mario RPG, that's a lot of the driving force too. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to see what the next little town and the group of people say and what happens and all of that.
I think it's fine. I don't like it as much as those other two games. I think it's better than... It's probably better than I was expecting it to be, just because I know that there was a bit of a thing where they really kind of cracked down on the weirdness of Thousand Year Door, for example. So it's... After that came out. So it's it's sort of slightly more in that direction than I would have expected. And I mean, look, for a franchise that has been basically, dormant for a little while, and the original developer is gone now, so this very well could have just not existed at all. I think it's cool that they've brought it back, and hopefully this is like a, first step to being able to get it a little bit more on track. And the last couple of entries of this series, I think people were not particularly fond of. So it does seem like it's a bit more of a step in the right direction. But yeah.
The last one was like a crossover between Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario, right? And then before that, it was the DS ones, like Bowser's Inside Story and stuff. Is that right?
There's one
roughly?
called Dream Team that's in there that I think was a 3DS one that was after Inside Story. But I mean, I never finished Inside Story, and my main takeaway from this is like, oh, maybe I should just pick that one back up, because I do love.
I remember. Sorry, but shut up. No, I remember also never really being a fan of, I definitely played that first Mario and Luigi on the Game Boy Advance, and maybe tried one of the DS ones at some point. But I do remember feeling really similarly about those ones too, where there was just something missing. There was just a little bit of soul that wasn't there in those ones even, which are the ones that people look back on fondly, and part of the reason why this one is coming back. And, that's where those fans are from. And so, but I had a lot of the same sort of, drag about those ones as you're feeling about this. So I wonder if it is... That's why I'm saying, maybe it's not you, man. Maybe it's Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, I just had a quick look through the Metacritic scores, because it's got a 79 overall. That's, perfectly acceptable. But the review... And there's a huge... broad swath of different scores, but Destructoid and GameSpot both gave it 6 out of 10. Digital Trends and IGN gave it 5 out of 10. And then a lot of the very positive reviews are individual reviewers, smaller, outlets, but that across 4 pretty major outlets, the average being 5.5 out of 10 is not great.
This is a bit like one of those segments where it feels like you were for an ad for the local theater interviewing the audience as they were coming out, being like, yeah, I'm Destructoid and I didn't really like Wicked here at the Frankston Community Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a big thing online this week about IGN's review score, and then for some weird reason they keep reposting it on their Twitter. They've reposted a link to the review every day.
It must.
And so I've seen people being like, "What is their fucking problem with this game? Why are they?"
Surely it got a bunch of hits because it was so low initially, and now it's got to be their most viewed review of the past.
So yeah.
Like that.
And
I missed this. Were people angry because it was low? Is it one of those ones?
Yeah, it's weird because what you say about maybe this is just Mario and Luigi, it's the guy reviewing it is a massive, massive fan of the series.
Right.
And it kind of, there's just a lot of stuff about it that doesn't seem too out of line with what he's it just takes ages to get going. And it's that's kind of all of them. He's oh, it's pretty handholdy. It's it's a Nintendo RPG.
I mean,
it's not going to be too dense.
Nintendo in general have had a bit of a habit with a bunch of their games that have been otherwise good in the last little stretch of having that, especially up towards the front, of just this slow beginning that is very you think I'm a baby.
Right, exactly. Yes, I was going to say.
I have purchased a product for a child,
but
how dare you think it of me?
It has a patronizing tone, and it feels like it's unfairly taking your time.
Well, it's just frustrating, yeah. You just want to, you at least want the option of being like, and a bit of this, I mean, kind of every game does a version of this now, but that's kind of what you get from, you know, you used to get a manual in the box with a game, and you would turn it on and you would get no directive about what to do because the game would just assume that you'd read through the manual to figure out what buttons. And like, even at the very least now, a game will be like, yeah, push the right trigger to shoot. You know, it might not hold your hand with how to solve things, and it might not be so slow and dragged out. But like, I think that is just the side effect of all of this stuff having to be built in. And some developers feel like, hey, maybe we've got to assume that this is the first time people have ever interacted with a video game, which for a lot of Nintendo stuff is probably true, but it is annoying when you don't get the option of being like, hey, I can, you know, if you got a menu prompt at the start of the game that's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, don't worry about it.
Yeah. And I want those people to be able to play games, but like the core of good game design to me is when you are being taught things without knowing you are being taught things. When that's always the
I don't think
baseline thing.
Like, kids aren't that dumb, you know? Like, even if you're a child playing this, you'd be like, yeah, I can figure it out. Like, I don't want to be treated like a child.
When you go into Mario 1 the first time and then you're like, oh, okay, I guess I shouldn't do that again. But you're a kid, so you do it like 11 more times and you learn. That's how kids have to learn. You throw them into the forest, and if they come back, they're a Spartan.
That's right.
It's interesting, though. I mean, like with RPGs especially, you kind of, just the format of it does mean that, you know, you kind of have to have that bit where it's like, now go into this bit and select this. And you can also do this as an attack, you know, like teaching you that you've got your different, whereas in like, say, a platformer or something, you can just kind of do it in level design where it is a bit more organic. But I think like something about the sheer fact of having to like scroll through menus, you do have to have that thing where your little helper person is like, even in Metaphor, it's like, hey, why don't we... Hey, we've unlocked this. Why don't you try giving it a go?
Yeah, and I do remember being really frustrated playing, I think, Final Fantasy VIII, which has a very complicated and annoying like junction system, and it's like, you know, a lot of weird RPG stuff going on with it. And there were unskippable tutorial sections where the fucking cursor was going blip, 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 and like it was annoying then. So I guess it hasn't. It's not like it's brand new for RPGs, like you say. It is the one thing where it's like, yeah, if you really want to understand it, we're going to have to just show you.
Yeah.
There's a middle ground, which obviously is so hard to reach, because a game that had the perfect middle ground would be the perfect game. Because, like, you know, we'll often talk on here about like a game where I'm like, oh, it's great because it, you know, you have to figure it out yourself, and then you'll play the same game, Ben, and be like, it didn't tell me what to do, so I got annoyed. And like, so, you know, we've got either extreme end of the spectrum, but something like Metaphor, I think, does it well enough where it's like, the story that it's telling you while it's showing you these things can be engaging, and like when it first brings in the archetypes, it happens at like this pivotal story moment and makes it like an emotional peak that keeps you engaged during the like, and by the way, here's a fucking system, you know, like that's clever.
And I think with this, to be fair, I'm not even really finding it like overly handholdy or spelling things out in a way or tutorializing you more so than any other JRPG does. It's more that at 5 hours in, every place you're going to, there's like a new little cutscene that's fine, but not, you know what I mean, not spectacular. And it just hasn't started to thread in more of the, you know, if I had maybe 2 or 3 more combat options by this point that had gradually been given to me, I probably would be enjoying it a lot more and not have these issues. It's more just like how much it's like holding back, getting me into the like, which, I mean, Persona does, you know, you really do. It takes such a long time before you're like, okay, I'm truly playing the game now. I have the full game. I have all of the options. It's revealed all of itself to me. And now I'm on my little quest. Like I'm still
I've
really
seen
being like
everything.
I've modded this so I can see everything.
Well, maybe I should play Mario and Luigi, because having your handheld sounds pretty nice. Must be all right.
Speaking of combat options, I have just put in like about 90 minutes of time into Metal Slug Tactics. We've all been looking forward to this game, but got revealed a fair while back, and I think we're all pretty keen on like the retro art style, and we just all like turn-based, strategy tactics games. And played the demo. I've kind of just covered most of the same ground again, but I think there's a few more. You get a bit more freedom, but look, if you're gonna show me every single option and every menu option, at least allow me to skip through every single thing that you show me as fast as I want, because that's what I've been doing. I get it. You move the character over there. You use one of the guns. You point the gun over there. It does it like it's all, we've been there. We've done that. But
now I'm just going to warn you. If you come back here in a week and you tell me that Metal Slug Tactics is too confusing, I swear to God.
I don't think it has the potential to be. Like, you have, at the start at least, you have 3 team members. You have those great, like, floating isometric combat arenas. And you got a bunch of enemies, and that's pretty much it. The mission types, I've pretty much only seen like kill all enemies or like destroy convoy before it reaches the end of the map, which is very Mario plus Rabbids. Those were pretty common among the mission types there. But it just looks great, and all of the like 2D like illustration and animation that is a real throwback to the original games. I just fucking love. I love the style. It's like a more character-filled version of that Advance Wars remake.
Yeah.
It just works, it just works perfectly. There's no resistance, there's no hand-holding, there's no slowdown. You can mash your way through every cutscene if you want and just get to the sweet, sweet battles. But I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah,
I kind of thought it'd have a bit of like... Yeah, I played a lot of turn-based tactical action games, and they're all very similar. Will this just be another one? But there's something to it. There's something to the style and the sort of arcadey feel, and the speed with which you can, get through a mission, bang on to the next one. I'm just really enjoying it so far.
Cool. Yeah.
I reckon I'm going to try and join you in playing it for next week.
Yeah.
And have some more to talk about with it, because I've been keen for that too, and just haven't had time to get a look in at it, but haven't been able to scrabble that one onto my playlist yet. But I have scrabbled a tiny bit, and I intend to have this more than finished. Well, it can't be more than finished, but done by next week as well. I'm going to keep playing it, so you'll hear more about this. But because it only came out like moments ago, really, at the time when we were recording this. So I played as much as I could of Rise of the Golden Idol. I'm liking it so far. Case of the Golden Idol. Case or curse?
Case.
Case?
I think curse makes more sense, right?
Berenstein.
It may be curse.
It is a curse, but I feel like we had this discussion at the time where, like, it is a curse, and it should have been the curse, but it's
also
the
a case.
It's called the Case of the Golden Idol.
Yeah.
The Case of the Curse of the Golden Idol.
That's what
now
it should have been called.
talking.
Rise of the Kingdom of the Golden Idol.
The Rise of the Golden Idol, it's the sequel to the Case of the Golden Idol, which I think was on all of our Game of the Year lists. We sort of played it together in videos. It was a good time. This is the sequel to that. I'm like a couple of chapters in out of I don't know how many. And look, the first one wasn't that long of a game if you're playing it normally, but and I don't expect this one to be that much longer. But so far, it's very much the same sort of thing, where if you've never played that first one, you are playing a like supernatural detective kind of. You've got like a freeze frame basically of a scene where you can go through and pick at little points of interest throughout this scene. And your job is it'll give you a bunch of words to use as you look at everything. Your job is to take those words and to place them into a sort of Mad Lib description of what's taken place there as you start to figure it out with logic clues from notes and from, things in the environment and from piecing together, well, if this guy's saying that, then he can't have been here at that time, all that sort of stuff. Logic puzzles, basically, that are really well done again. The first one had just sort of a very similar template for each of the puzzles throughout the whole game. This one sort of mixes it up by changing what types of questions it's asking you. They're all still the same thing of like put the right word in the right place, but just with little twists and turns to make it a bit more interesting from scene to scene. The art style is fine. I don't mind it, and it's thematically appropriate for this sort of like 70s vibe that they're going for with this one, which is cool. Like, it's set in the same world, and it's continuing the story from the first one, which was set in like a more like 15, 16, 1700s type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, I've just said 3 centuries there, but I don't know which one I mean. So I've tried to cover all my bases.
Yeah.
But this one is, set in like kind of a 1970s version of this pretend world that, the art style works for that. I just don't think it looks anywhere near as good as that sort of like early 90s PC kind of graphics of the first one, which...
I think I agree, because the demo was, I think, the first chapter of the game. So I played all of that when the demo was dropped, and I think I agree. Like, it's not off-putting, the new style, but
no, I don't even think it's bad.
Yeah. No, it's just that the original one was so good. It was such a nostalgic style that also played into the gameplay. It felt like this unearthed, brilliant old game that I just don't know why they changed it, but
it kind of, on the one hand, because as they did the DLC for Case of the Golden Idol, they added to that sort of original art style with more frames of animation that these sort of people will loop through in those scenes and stuff like that, which I thought was like a cool improvement. But I can see that maybe they might have felt like they had sort of explored that and wanted to try something different, which I respect.
Yeah.
And in some ways, this is just a different flavor, but I do think that other flavor was more satisfying with the visuals. But the puzzles all seem to be firing on the same sort of cylinders that first one was, where as you go through the game, it's ramping up in difficulty. So I'm not to the point where I'm like, what the fuck is going on here yet? But the satisfaction of piecing together what's happened there using pure logic, which is my favorite type of logic and YouTube search term.
Yeah, you love to use that to defeat various different minority groups.
It's what cool guys do on the internet. It shows that you have an enormous intellect if you feel the insecure need to constantly scream about it. Really shows you're on the right side of fucking, and oh my god. Anyway, I can't keep that up for much longer because I'm starting to get genuinely angry thinking about the subject. But it's satisfying in similar ways, and like I haven't felt, even though this, I'm still relatively early on in this, and I'll talk more to this next week, I guess. I haven't felt yet any sort of been there, done that overlap with the first game, because the first game wasn't that long, but also by the end of it, it does feel like, well, I've kind of done a lot of different variations on this idea. So, like I've had to piece together dates and times and stuff and all sorts of different things. So at this point, I'm finding that they're creative beyond just retreading anything from that first game.
Yep. It's not just like another book of Sudoku.
Right, exactly. I'll be able to speak to that more next week, and I intend to play the rest of this game. But early reports are that I like this series. And also they've put out like a roadmap for DLC stuff, which you can buy at a discount as well. There are things like 10% off, and if you have Case of the Golden Idol, it's then 15% off, which is cool.
What about if you have Curse of the Golden Idol? What kind of discount do you get then?
You get a discount to go and see the doctor for your reading comprehension
charge you
or
more.
more problems.
I've modded this game, but all I've done to it is just change the title screen to have the name of that I thought it had.
All right, man. Well, California's suing you now, so what was the actual question? What were you actually talking about? I've been
the roadmap of the DLC.
Yeah. The
DLC. Yeah. There's going to be like 5 more chapters coming out throughout next year in this little pack.
Nice.
Like the game itself is like, I think without the discount, about $30 Australian, and the DLC stuff is like 18 Australian, something like that. I might have those numbers a bit wrong, but I just think these are really fun puzzle games that, if you're into logic type puzzle games, these are just super satisfying and so well done. And similar to that thing we were talking about before, where like the fact that I have the goal to feel like I'm a genius for solving the incredibly well laid out puzzle that someone else was the genius responsible for. It's a great feeling that I'll never examine too deeply. I am a genius.
But as we say, you get so kind of overwhelmed with hand-holding in games and things being spelled out or being in a very narrow thing where you're driven towards it, that even just, something that creates the illusion of like, here's the tableau, we're not going to give you any kind of like, no, it might be worth going. It literally just gives you nothing other than obviously the gaps to put the words in. So it is still limited in its own way, but it feels like it's so much freer than what it is, and it's so satisfying because of it.
Right. And they put in a bunch of red herring words and stuff like that. Like, it's not like there's just the same number of words and spaces or anything like that. Like, similar concepts will be there. And you do kind of have to know what happened before you can solve it. Other than, I suppose, two things, which, you've got the list of words, so you can kind of piece it together in a meta way that way. Or, and we did this a couple of times when we were playing the first one, when you get down to, like, most of it is filled in, if all but like 2 or 1 are in the wrong place, it will tell you that. So you can kind of brute force it a little bit if you know which sort of bit you're not sure about.
Yeah.
They haven't fixed that thing, and you're only hurting yourself by cheating. But like it would have been nice if they'd maybe had a way to kind of get around that weird little quirk of how they're doing it. And I'm sure they've play tested it, and it's more frustrating not to have that indicator, and it actually just makes the game less fun to just be fucking flinging shit at the wall because you're so certain you've got this thing that you're so wrong about that you're never going to go back and re-examine it. But like, because sometimes those things as well are like, oh, you wanted me to say the other way round of the people, like, or like this other, it can be something pretty trivial that you just kind of overlooked. But I suppose that's still there, but it's not a big deal. Good game far.
I'm very glad these games exist. Like, I feel like Return of the Obra Dinn was what really got me back into this kind of game, and the fact that there hasn't been a second one of those, like, I'm glad it appears to have ignited the sort of some inspiration in some developers to be like, all right, let's make some of our own really intelligent and satisfying puzzle games that it's just about figuring shit out. There's nothing else to it.
It's a space where indie games as well have done such good things with it too. Like, since like The Witness and stuff earlier than that, but I loved The Witness and stuff that's come out in the indie developer space. It's fun to do.
It's late. It's very late where Nox is.
Yeah, it's Adam's bedtime.
No, that's not the issue.
Time.
The issue runs deeper than that. There's no time when I wouldn't have ran out of steam like that.
I guess aside from all these very creative and different approaches to this, there's like the Ace Attorney games, which they're releasing like a HD remaster of every 3 months, which is also cool.
Yeah. Oh, I love this sort of game, and I'm gonna wrap it up and tell you what I think of the whole thing next week. But
I think I'm gonna download and play it right now as soon as we get off the call.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I am going to go to bed. That's what I'm doing. So picture that. Like, I think an average of 17 minutes is what it takes people to fall asleep. That might be longer than the average.
Sure.
I've heard 7 as well, which seems pretty quick.
I'm going to text you in 16 and a half minutes and say, how's it going, bro? You holding that little candle yet or what?
Nightcap status report.
Yeah, which side? Which side you leaning? But
to the left on the head, right down below. Actually, left in both. I'm looking forward to more of that. And there's a bunch of other good games, like, because some of them are coming out on like the day we record this,
right?
So we'll like be a bit behind with like Stalker 2. I'm really keen to see what that's like. There's a few things like that on the horizon, which is also Lego Horizon is next week, which that'll be interesting thing to see as well.
I'm pumped to play this goddamn Dragon Quest game.
You would be.
Right.
Looks beautiful.
Get a load of this hypocrite. Hypocrite.
All right, we better wrap it
right.
up there for another installment of Filthy Casuals. Thank you very much for joining us. Get onto our website, filthycasuals.com.au. Head over to our Patreon if you would like to support us. We very, very much appreciate it. You get a bonus show every week where we talk movies, TV, all sorts of other pop culture stuff. We also do special zone episodes where we go deep on a topic of one of our choosings. All sorts of stuff on the Patreon for you as a incentive to support this show. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time, and as we say here at the end of every installment of Filthy Casuals.
You didn't hear it from me, but I've heard that Mario and Luigi are in sort of a brothership, if you know what I mean. They're fucking.